Beyond this practice, has there been a version of Ben studying this when you were approached with a very challenging life situation?
I've gone through, again, waves of crippling depression earlier in my lives. Those waves of crippling depression were such a blessing. And I can never really attribute my successes to me.
One of your philosophies, active methodology in order to move through it, like what did that look like for you?
The solidity, the reality of our self-definitions.
Hey everyone, welcome to What If It's Possible. This is Jimmy, and today on the show we have Benjamin Duffy, Ben Duffy. If you're not familiar with Ben Duffy, he's actually already been on the show a few weeks ago. He's a licensed therapist, coach, and liberation guide, and his goal has been to help people understand the nature of their mind, perception, and he has a lot of great background studying Tibetan Buddhism and much more. Welcome back to the show, Ben.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really loved our last conversation, so I'm excited to get into it again with you.
Yeah, I know it's been a quick minute since we last talked. Last time we talked a lot about Buddhism philosophy, different applications of understanding the reality that we're actually in. And I really want to maybe take one step deeper into this topic and go beyond just philosophy itself and see how we can actually
Great.
directly apply these philosophies into tangible daily life. Since the last time we talked, like, how do you feel about this? What's been coming up for you?
Um, yeah, so what's been coming up around those ideas or what's been coming up in my life? Or both?
Both.
Both, yeah. So we were talking a little bit about this before we started the recording, but I was just saying that I feel like I'm in this phase of shedding. Is a good way to put it. It's like one of the waves of life. You have the highs, you have the lows. It's how it goes for literally everyone. So I felt personally like I was in one of those dips where I was shedding a lot of what we could call self-image, my vision for my future, my expectations for life. Yeah, that would be a good general way to start it off. There's obviously specifics we can get into if you'd like, but it's uncomfortable. That shedding where things are falling away and we enter into this kind of groundless state. I do, and I'm assuming everyone else does. It's how, again, things come and things go, including identities, again, visions for the future, expectations of life, relationships to life, people, all of that. It's all transient and impermanent.
Yeah.
So when things do fall apart, fall away, it's easy to enter into a place of real deep suffering, confusion. And I've honestly had enough of these waves to know all according to plan. I know the necessity of this shedding. You can call it darkness, but really it's we're shedding everything that isn't going to serve us in our next iteration, in our next chapter. I see it as the perfect flow of the divine from a certain lens, where it's like, great, something's preparing you for something new, but we need to empty this vessel to open it up to receiving and becoming something different. So it's been difficult entering into that groundless state. My values, priorities, goals all started to shift. I was like, what's meaningful? What's important to me now? And not knowing like where to put my energy, what to do. Weird for, anyone when we're used to having that more grounded experience. So I've been in this shedding period and it's been uncomfortable, but learning how to just let it be here, not say there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with the world. There's nothing wrong necessarily with the way I've been operating, all according to plan. So that view has been really useful in this period of shedding, where I can actually just relax into it. Maybe there's nothing I can do. Maybe I can stop fighting, stop trying to fix it. Because I see it almost like quicksand. When we're in those periods of what we can call darkness, one of those dips in life, the more we fight it, the deeper we sink. And I already knew that. So I was like, fuck it, let it take me. That's kind of how I relate to it at this point. Just because I've done it enough and I have awareness of we're in one of the dips.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Yeah. Ben, so it sounds like you're talking a little bit about change, right? That's happening. Almost like not unwelcome change, but change that's sort of unexpected. It's asking for you to let go of something. That's the shedding
Yeah.
you're speaking of.
Yeah.
And right now you're directly dealing with this in the moment, which is fantastic medicine to like show people like, hey, if you're in this state, how can you change? How can you work through it and like come out of it sort of unscathed or in a more like zen and peaceful state? So
Yeah.
for you, it sounds like surrendering, like an
You
act
have
of
to. Yeah.
surrendering. And what does that look like tactically? Is there
Yep.
like, are you breathing through it or what does that look like? I'm just curious for myself as well and for
Absolutely.
the audience.
Yeah, for sure. So breathing through it, obviously. I would say the deeper the breath, the better because it's, I mean, A, if we're not breathing through it, we're probably dead. B, again, the breath, removing that prana, removing that energy that oftentimes with anxiety, like, what am I going to do? Where do I go? What do I, blah, 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 blah. It's just locked in the being. So for me, it's, time tested tools like exercise, breathing, going outside, something simple, literally walking around. Also, just meditation, simplify the mind to come to the breath, recognize I don't have to actually know what I'm doing in the future. I don't have to know the new version of me. I don't know how to deal with this discomfort in my body, actually. I don't have to fix it. Can I just be with it? Can I come back to this breath as like a grounding tether to this present moment? Because when I can be here, where are the problems? That's an open question. Like, where are they? Because in this moment, if we're here, I don't see them. So, but that's the skill, right? Is being able to over and over again connect with this. And that's what I found to be the best investment in our future, more so than our stock portfolio, is our ability to actually meet this moment as it is. And that's the whole spiritual path. You could summarize, well, there are many spiritual paths. None are better than any other. But in order to really find, I would say, peace, salvation, it's not outside of the suffering. It's not around the suffering. Real salvation is actually within the suffering. There is no other way. When I can really meet that, when I say suffering, I'm mostly referring to sensations in the body. Discomfort is going to be usually in our central channel. So the rumbling gut, the tightness in the chest, the lump in the throat, the headache, the energy collects when we are in a contracted state into this central channel here. And often we can also feel heat in the hands, we can feel flighty, just tight everywhere. So really becoming curious of what are these feelings? And when we identify, okay, so it's, for me, it can be this tightness in the chest. And if we're really curious about that, we can notice maybe it's flowing and moving sort of like a lava lamp blob. And we're just being curious, and maybe it goes to the throat. Maybe some tears come. Maybe it moves down to the gut. And just being curious about the somatic experience. And then once we identify it, can I meet it directly without meeting it as a means of trying to change it? Not even necessarily trying to breathe through it. I would say, yes, absolutely use the breath. Not using loving kindness practice to escape it necessarily. All of these skills and practices are tools, but there's something so unbelievably simple and effective about just welcoming it exactly as it is. This fear, yeah, it's here. I can meet it and I don't need to get rid of it. It can actually just be here as it is. And that's where we can find, again, I would say the only real peace in life is within the discomfort by making it a home. And when we stop pushing away discomfort, stop trying to fix it, stop trying to find a way around it, we'll find actually the discomfort literally transforms at the level of our perception. It is no longer as uncomfortable. It is no longer that intense because we are lowering our resistance to that discomfort. And what is primarily hurting, what is primarily the source of the suffering, is the unskillful relationship of resistance towards my experience externally and towards my experience internally. So when I stop the resistance, all of a sudden, it's not that bad. And I can literally find home in the discomfort. And this is where in Buddhism, they talk about samsara, the endless wheel of suffering that most beings are trapped in. And then they talk about nirvana, the end of suffering. And at the end of the path, really, the two merge into something identical. The endless wheel of suffering and the end of suffering are exactly the same. It's our relationship to the feelings, to the suffering. Can I welcome it? Can I find home in that suffering? Can I stop pushing it away? So when I can welcome this world and my feeling body, my mind exactly as they are, that's the only time we'll actually find real peace that is not dependent on any conditions. I don't need things to be comfortable. I don't need to live a certain amount of time. I don't need a certain amount of human connection even. And it really does go that deep if we're willing to go that deep. Can I meet it as a means of purifying that, again, bodily experience where it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. It really is. And when we hold it and treat it as such, it really becomes deeply okay in a mythic, almost prophetic kind of way.
Yeah, you hit on something, and I got straight body chills. I'm not sure if you saw me. I had a huge smile on my
I
face. I was
saw
like,
that.
oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was
I'm
like, oh, he
glad.
just dropped something on us, like so
Oh,
good.
yeah, that was a good one.
This reminds me a lot, and I don't want to like mix traditions and stuff, but it
No,
reminds me a
please.
lot of I went to a Vipassana silent meditation retreat that was about 10 days of silent meditation. And one of the practices that they were teaching during the meditation was observing the sensations of the body with your mind's eye without trying
Mhm.
to change anything, without trying to judge it, and just
Yeah.
truly being the observer of the sensations. And it sounds like what you're describing right now, except without your eyes closed, your eyes are open and you're it's almost like a awake meditation essentially,
Yeah,
an active
exactly.
meditation, which is
Mhm.
profound. Beyond this practice, has there been a place, maybe a version of Ben a year ago, 5 years ago, as you were studying this, when you were approached with a very challenging life situation that you had to bring in another Buddhist or practice, like one of your philosophies, into
Totally.
active methodology in order to move through it? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I'll give you some background. I don't think we talked about this last time, but I've gone through, again, waves of crippling depression earlier in my lives. Those waves of crippling depression were such a blessing because it took me on the spiritual path. I was graduating undergrad up at Colorado State University. My girlfriend of 4 years left me because I was just depressed, couldn't even show up for myself. How was I gonna show up for her? She left me. I didn't wanna get a job in the field I just graduated in, which was environmental science, because it's like you're working in front of a computer. I wanted to be outside. So I was like, what do I do? So I saved up a couple $1,000 and flew to Vietnam, biked across the country, did some work exchanges, was like a tour guide, worked on some farms, and I was just still depressed. And I was like, I need to figure this out. So I was like, did some yoga earlier, before I went on this journey. And I was like, okay, so India's the spot to end suffering, right? That seems to be it. So I'm going to fly to India. And this was during COVID. So I actually got kicked out of Vietnam. All the foreigners got kicked out of Vietnam because of COVID. So I was like, well, I'm going to India. Flew into Delhi, took a bus to Rishikesh, one of the holy cities in northern India, and just went straight to an ashram. I was like, I'm sick of this. Where's the salvation? So still really depressed. And I learned it was a Shiva ashram. So a different tradition than I normally practice from at this point. But Eastern philosophy has a lot of overlap in different flavors of Hinduism as well as Buddhism, especially Tantric Buddhism and Tantric Hinduism, very similar. So, really learning a radically different view on life, existence, the cosmos, practice, devotion, something that you don't see in the West. Like, literally, you will not see, well, maybe, I guess there's probably some very devoted ashrams out here, but the culture in India is like a different planet. So in this really dark period, I tried everything. I was reading the books. I was waking up at 4 in the morning, doing all the practices, doing the yoga, doing the neti pot, doing the breath work, reading all the texts and trying. And it helps. It really does help. The practice of devotion really, I would say trying on a different worldview where we are so, for instance, go in the West, prove yourself, make more money, or else you're a failure. It's so conditioned, it seems normal. And it's cultural conditioning. So, and it's oppressive and it's hard to escape because for the most part, everyone's in it. So we condition each other into go. And then you go to India, it's not like that. Like rural India, where I was, it's not like that. It could be the 1500s. People are plowing their fields with water buffalo. Like it's like that. So really different culture. And you see, oh, people are living life just like me in a really different way. So that was liberating to me just to see. It's like, oh, I don't have to live like that. I don't have to fit that mold. Things can still be okay if I don't fit that mold. So that was very loosening to me. And so that was the beginning of my path. I left the ashram. I had my first big break there was actually when, again, big break open. My first real profound transformation so this is during COVID. The whole country's on lockdown. I'm at the ashram with a bunch of other foreigners. I don't have enough money to actually pay for this place because I was expecting to do work stays, but I ended up being here for like 4 months. So I was like, okay, so I don't have enough money, but I can't leave because, there's a pretty serious lockdown. So the basically head teacher, Lalita Ji, she said, just help us build this hospital on the property and we'll give you, you can stay, housing and food, all that. So I was like, of course. And it was, yeah, really cool part of my life, honestly, but would work every day for a few hours, like doing construction, basically, like developing nation style construction. It's pretty cool. And I remember I was so torn because my dad would call me and he'd be like, Ben, we don't want you to be in rural India if this COVID thing gets worse and the world is burning. Like, please come home. And I remember like, yeah, but I'm still deeply suffering. And I haven't found this whole end of suffering that these traditions offer and claim. And I'm like, I'm so stubborn. I'm like, I'm not going to leave until I find it. Like burn the boats kind of mentality. So, and I was so torn. I was like, do I stay or do I go? What if this COVID thing gets like a lot worse? Do I want to be away from my family and everyone I care about and die out here? And I was like, oh, but I haven't found it. I'm going to go home. I have no job. I have no money. My girlfriend left me. I'm like, I'm just going to be a loser. Like, what am I going to do? Just work at a like gas station? And I was also so depressed. Like I couldn't connect with people. I was so locked up and like closed off. I couldn't connect. And I was like, I can't accept that. I can't accept myself being a shell of who I know I can be. All of that pain and that indecision, so much tension in the being, something snapped. And I remember I was literally moving pipes. I remember this moment. And I was like so numb. I couldn't feel anything. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Something broke. I dropped the pipes and I literally just started sobbing. And I fell to my knees and I'm just like in tears. And it was just me at that point at the job site. And I'm just like looking up. We're literally on the banks of the Ganges and there's like, it's beautiful. We're in the foothills of the Himalayas. And I look up and in the trees, I see the light hitting these leaves. And I remember like, wow, so beautiful. And I'd been here for months. And it was the first time I could actually see it. Because something in me like broke open to just feeling. And what it needed to feel was pain. That's what I was avoiding. And when we shut ourselves off to pain, we shut ourselves off to joy, love, and beauty at the same time. And that's what depression really is. The being doesn't feel like we can feel the pain. It'll be too much. So we just shut it all down. And then we enter this gray, numb place. And I just felt it so deeply. And I was like, you know what? If I'm a loser, if I work at a gas station, if I can't even connect with people for the rest of my life, and so it is. And so it is. Fuck it. I'm done fighting this. I just don't have the energy. I'm done. And it was that. That was this. It was like even giving up the spiritual practice and the path in a certain sense, not in totality, obviously, because the story continues. But even just letting it all go, just being with this exactly as it is. This, the feeling body, the mind, the not knowing, the fear. What do I do? Just let it be here. It's okay. I'm done running. That was where this mythic level of, I would say just openness. That's what we could reduce it to. Just really started from. And I feel like I'm still in the wave of that openness and the implications of it and the ripening of that. It's not even an understanding. It's something in your whole being, like your mind, your body, your energy body, like your everything open and just let it be. Myself, my expression, my neuroses, my trauma, my weird patterns, let it be. And that's where things start to transform when we stop the fight, that suffering over time. And it took months, if not years, to feel the pain that I had been holding in. And it built up from my whole life. Pain from my upbringing, pain from feeling so separate and different in the culture and not fitting in, and just wanting to be like really loved as I was, wanting to feel connection and not having that, especially as a kid. And this is such a common experience, heartbreaking, just so painful. And not knowing how to hold that. And I can feel like the tears in my throat right now. I can feel it because it's like I've been there and I know what loneliness really feels like. I know what the absence of love feels like, especially for ourselves. And it's hellish. So it's like, yeah, being able to open to that. And that as a therapist too, this is what I take clients through. Therapist and coach, doesn't matter. We're going to that pain, say of not feeling loved. Often that's it, or feeling rejected, feeling abandoned, feeling ostracized. That. Where do you feel that in the body? Can we let ourselves break to that and like just hold it? So this is where the practices fell away. You can't use them in this place. It's so raw. It's so visceral. It's just you and reality. And this is a product of the walls breaking. So this is where those experiences of emotionally, psychologically breaking are such potent opportunities because they're breaking you open to what? Pain. That's why there were walls there. And when we are in direct contact with pain, that is the only opportunity that we'll have to heal it. And we can build walls again. If the pain's still there, it's like a bullet or shrapnel in our body. If it heals over, okay, it'll still hurt probably for the rest of your life. You'll feel that metal in there. Or we can open it up and take it out. And that's going to hurt because we're contacting the pain. But when we feel that, again, what I'm just calling pain discomfort, obviously we can apply different words to it. When we feel it, again, we heal it in a kind of cliche way. It's when we keep things at arm's length. They're not integrated. We're fragmenting our being, and those emotions don't have a home. They're like wandering children that want to come home to us, to the warmth and the healing innate in the human heart. And we actually say, nope, you're not allowed. This emotion, this discomfort, you're not allowed. not in this life. That's how we break our own hearts, literally. When we can connect with the pain, bring it home, let ourselves feel the warmth of the heart, really connecting with that pain is the healing. It is the integration, where then those wounds, that loneliness, and I mean loneliness even in the present, the pain we feel, and again, in the present, it can't haunt us. It can't really hurt us. And there's another analogy. I know I'm talking a lot right now, but that I love from Andrew Holacek. He's a Tibetan teacher. He says in his book Reverse Meditation, he says that our discomfort, our pain, we can view it through the lens of like a boxing match. In a boxing match, when the two opponents are at a distance, they can throw haymakers, they can knock each other out. So if we're keeping our pain at a distance, it can wreck us. In the same analogy, if we are in a clinch in a boxing match, meaning we're like holding our opponent, we're holding that pain close. The pain cannot throw a punch. It's so close. We can hold it as it is and just let it be. That's how close it needs to be so that we don't get haunted by it. We don't get crippled. We don't get rocked by anything that can come our way. The question really is, how close can I hold this pain? How deeply can I let it be here? So this is kind of a long-winded way of saying the most profound shifts in my own life have not been from any specific practice. The practices set the conditions, the awareness, the ability to meet experience, the curiosity, the discipline. These are things that are cultivated with practice, but in that moment of a real break, and there's been many in my life, but that was the biggest one that I still see has had quite an impact. That break, you can't practice your way into. It just happens with the weight of life and the weight, honestly, of suffering. The suffering breaks us open to a love far beyond it. And yeah, I hope that sort of answers the question, but that's what really saved me, is feeling and not finding a way around that pain. It didn't exist. The practices can often become an attempt to find a way around. And ultimately, it's finding a way in. That's where the peace is. That's where the salvation is. That's where, oh, this is perfect. Maybe even nirvana right now.
Yeah. First off, Ben, thank you for sharing this story, like this sort of like origin story, like of a rebirth that you went through essentially, or a huge discovery about yourself. And man, what a story, by the way. Like this is such a
Isn't it?
cool like you traveled where and you were living in an ashram and like it is quite a life. So and it's very unique. So I think it's very super cool. I can completely relate to your story in so many ways also. So really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
When I was listening to you, man, I kept hearing like there's so many layers of ourselves that create suffering in some way. Like our mind is so accustomed to creating stories about our past and things that have happened and the suffering that we like have or are still in, even though
Yeah.
it's something so long ago, you know, and it still keeps it in the present, keeps it alive, like these stories. And
Hmm.
hearing you, I kind of tie it back to people who talk about somatics and like somatic practitioners that where we feel it in our body in that way and we push it away. And the more we push it away, it's kind of like your neighbor trying to knock at the door and you don't answer the door and they're going to knock louder and louder. Next thing you know, they're
Hmm.
kicking the door down and you're just like, you know, in so much pain and agony. And I've experienced this myself.
Exactly.
And yeah, so what you said, I think it touches on something that a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people have this pain that they still hold on to, and you really do need to feel it to heal it, like you said. So
Right.
I'm right there with you for sure.
I
Mm,
would say it like defines the human experience in a sense, is that unmet pain. And the very deep topics that we discussed last week, or not last week, our last podcast, those understandings are a product of openness. You open to what? Reality, actually. That simple. And with that, again, I don't want to use too many like new age words, but you tap into like a well of knowing. You can call it the Akashic. That's what some people call it. There's deep knowings when the being is that blasted open, that are just there about the state of reality. And it's, again, it's not in your mind. These knowings are held in the heart. And I heard in a book, and this is really true, that relative truths versus ultimate truths. Relative truths you have to try to prove. The mind is trying to rationalize it. It's trying to use numbers and data and prove a certain point. Ultimate truths, like the oneness of being, the fact that death is not what we think that it is. When you ask those questions to yourself in that really open state, it just sits in the heart and it's silent because it's been here the whole time. It's not a mystery. It's so obvious in a sense, it's hard to see. And that's really the beauty of this path. First, we have to heal our relationship to life, our emotions. the feelings in the body. And when we learn how to open in a radical way to those, we open to deep truths and knowings. And that's where when I got into something like Buddhism, these truths about, say, emptiness, I'm like, yeah, of course. And being able to, from that very empty place, try on different views that are literally no different than the views that we've been conditioned into. Say the view of separation. When I say that, I mean, I'm a separate self. Jimmy's a separate self. We're two clearly separate people, right? I would question if that's ultimately the state of things. And that view is so conditioned into us, it becomes a reality. But when we understand the view of emptiness, we can try on a different story. Say, Jimmy and I are like, two fingers on the same hand, right? Separate, yeah, for sure. Same hand, right? Same seer that sees my life, feels my body, seen my life since birth. That same awareness is identical to that within Jimmy or the viewer. And so these are stories, right? But from that lens of real openness, when I'm not clinging actually out of fear to a certain story, when I don't have to be afraid of reality, I let go and I can swim through reality, recognizing the power of story to construct experience from the inside out. And my experience, again, when I say Jimmy and I are in a sense inseparable, when we try on that story from that place of deep openness, it is felt. You are literally in a different place. And that reaffirms the truth. Oh, how is that possible? It must be empty of inherent truth. All of these stories are empty. And I want to touch on what our intention was in this podcast, which was to really take these deep understandings and make them pragmatic. So the truth of emptiness, how do we practice that? One way is to examine the self. And I think one beautiful way for listeners, and this is not, very deep or esoteric, is to actually start to question our self-view. How do I view myself? How do I define myself? Am I a winner? Am I kind? Am I wounded? Are these objective truths or are these stories and views? And there's nothing wrong with stories, right? Because in a sense, we can never escape them, ever. Even the story that there is no story is still a story. So we can practice understanding emptiness at the level of self. Why? Because that is where the majority of our suffering is as human beings at this point in time. It's my self-view. Am I enough? Will I have enough? Do people like me? It's me, me, me. All around me, me, me. So we should question, who is this me here? Like really intentionally start to question that. Am I so sure that the me that I experience is objectively real? Or is it a story that gets projected onto what we could call the void? And then it feels real. So there's a practice we can do where we just list out our own self-definitions. And it can be the good ones. I'm a kind person. I am doing my best. I am successful on the spiritual path or materially. Doesn't matter. Just write it out. Just like the negative, more painful self-views. I am wounded. I missed my opportunities. I hurt people. I have patterns that are harmful. So write out these definitions and start to question them. Start to find moments. Just really ask, have I always been kind? Always? If you're really honest, because of the full spectrum of the human experience, I bet one day when you're, low blood sugar, you haven't eaten all day, and someone just says some annoying thing to you, are you sure you're kind? Like, let's be honest. Any self-definition, no matter how good, no matter how beautiful, no matter how skillful, any self-definition that is solidified will become a cage by definition. So the freedom is to drop them all. Sometimes I am a kind person. Sometimes I'm an unkind person. Sometimes I'm a successful person. Sometimes my experience says otherwise. And that's okay. It's all okay. Letting go into really the void, the lack of a solid self, gives you the ultimate freedom to meet and own any experience that comes your way. And yes, of course, we want to be kind. We want to be of service, for instance. We want to be successful in whatever our specific image of success is. But at the same time, when we cling to those images, those stories, they become a source of suffering. They're, in a sense, confining and constraining to what we really are, which is source, void, flowing. And what we can do instead of focus on the self and how we feel about this self, we can focus on the conditions. What conditions were present when I was very kind or when I did feel very successful? What were the conditions that were present when I was really angry and unkind? Again, low blood sugar, maybe taking on more than I can chew. in work and life and family, whatever. Like, what are those conditions? And this is a prime point about what the Buddha taught, is moving away from the contracted view where I'm focusing on self, is just me, to recognizing the experience of me is completely dependent on, we could say, an infinite web of conditions. Infinite. It's the conditioning of my culture, my family, the worldview that's been conditioned into me, socioeconomic factors, crop yields, harvests, intergenerational trauma. Like, really, we can never blame myself for my faults or my failures, and I can never really attribute my successes to me. There are so many conditions at play that we don't recognize that determine your success, your sense of lack, your sense of trauma. It was never you in the first place. So holding that view through questioning the solidity, the reality of our self-definitions, just really being honest, what is it like? What do we feel in the body when we start to question them? Do we start to touch into groundlessness? Ooh, who am I? Wait, if I'm not that, what am I? The ego, the separate self, craves more than anything stability, some ground. I just want to know what I am. That's ego, and that ego doesn't exist. Because what we are is void. What we are is source, the undefinable, the ineffable. So this is where the annihilation of that ego, letting go into groundlessness, is actually the direct doorway to complete liberation and salvation. Recognizing I don't need a self-definition. I don't need any ego. I don't need to be good. I don't need to be bad. I don't need to be Ben. I don't need to be human. I don't need to be anything. That's where the freedom is. In the absence of any delineation of what I am and what I'm not, I am open to anything. And I can switch those self-definitions depending on what's called for at a given time. So this is where there's something very pragmatic in emptiness. And this is a small slice of the fruits of emptiness. I don't know if we'll have time to get into more today, unfortunately, but it's like amazing stuff in my opinion.
No, I hear you, and I feel like it opens opportunity to be anything at any time and to not close any opportunity that presents itself into the present moment. If there's an opportunity for you to dance and you are, "No, I am a successful business person," and that's your identity, and maybe suddenly you go, "Oh, I don't dance. I don't," and you're cutting yourself off from an opportunity for joy, for to experience,
Mhm.
for connection, for all of these things, and
Yeah.
there's so many alternatives of that where it's like, "Oh, I'm a silly person." So maybe you suddenly feel like, "Oh, I don't do business conversations. I don't talk to these types of people." And
Ah.
now it's like shutting you off from, again, being present. And in reality, someone told me this saying that I find so profound is this saying, "I am." And
Mhm.
dot 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 just opens you up for to be anything in any moment, and you can be a man, you can be a woman, you can be joyous, you can be sad, you can be tense, you can be crazy, wild, whatever it
Yeah.
is, and it allows, like, this is true free expression of yourself and
Yep.
true free experience of your own identity however you want to be. True creativity.
Exactly.
Now you can be anything, you can
That's what I'm
do
saying.
anything.
Yeah. Oh, chills.
Yes.
This is again this is the natural expression of the liberated psyche. That's what it is. It is creation, God, source, whatever word you like, flowing, uninhibited by, oh, that's not me. I'm like this. That's not me. Only if you say so, then so it is. And if we can recognize really breaking the chains of human conditioning from the culture, we really can be anything. Just keep breaking it down. Am I sure I'm this? And I'm sure of that. I'm sure the world is like that. Am I sure? This is the radicality of the path of inquiry, if we're being honest. And with a somewhat stable mind, you can go extremely deep to really break the chains. And that's where the expression of the liberated psyche is freedom, creativity, taking risks. It's not afraid because any loss, any failure is recognized to be constructed by me for me. And I don't have to make it. I don't have to view anything as a failure, no matter how many people might see me and my actions, my life as a failure. If I don't, it has no power over me. When I see it's all empty, I choose. And this is again the product of the liberated psyche, and we torture ourselves by clinging to self-definitions. I'm not, again, like you said, the person that dances. I'm not the guy that takes chances. I'll just meditate for another 3 hours today. I'm not gonna make my own podcast. I'm not gonna launch my business. I'm good. If you're clinging to that view of yourself in the world, you're limiting yourself. And that's the thing. It's in a very deep and beautiful way, all an expression of God, all an expression of the divine, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, the question is, how do I want to live in this one of one expression of whatever this is? Call it Ben, call it a human being, call it source itself, all equally real and equally fabricated. And at that point, what do I want to be?
Right.
Who do I want to be? And also, who is living through me? Who is moving through me? Who is taking those shots to move, to dance, to start the podcast? Who is it when it's all empty? That's the real question. And it becomes
Yeah.
very imminent where that divinity is running through your veins, speaking through your vocal cords right now. And that's something that we can get the depth, the luminosity of becoming that. Like you said, I am that. In the words of Nisargadatta Maharaj, Tatvamasi, I am that, meaning anything that could be, anything that you're aware of. And in the words of Walt Whitman, I love this quote. He says in a poem, did I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes.
Ooh.
That's the thing. You can be anything. I am large, I contain multitudes. Don't tell me what I am, don't tell me what I'm not.
Oh.
The liberated psyche chooses, right?
Well, I feel like this is a perfect place to help like kind of come to a beautiful bow of like I feel we went into a full circle in from the first episode of our podcast to this one, and everything you're saying, it just like hits so deeply. And I think maybe one other saying or another way that the audience can really visualize this that I'd like to present is this is a book and we are the main character in the book,
Mm,
but we're also the writer of the book at the same time. And in every moment, you can write this character however you choose. You can reinvent that character. You can give them a completely new story arc. You can have them completely change their identity and change their mind about who they are every single second. And then the character does that. And imagine this life, imagine this book, how interesting it will
right.
be. So just when in doubt, just remember that you can rewrite your story every single day. Oh my God, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Fire. That's exactly it. And what gets in the way of that, right? That's where I'm working, like professionally. What's in the way of that? And it's actually some degree of what we could reduce to fear and clinging. So fear is what causes us to cling to our identity, for instance. And so how do we work with that? Again, bring it back full circle to the beginning of the episode. Feel that fear. Let it be here and don't let it call the shots. We call the shots. And it can still be here and I can still create and discover radically new versions of myself, even with the fear. It's not in the absence of the fear, it's with the fear. And that's where we start to really have that confidence. I can make anything I want for myself. I am the creator, in a sense. It depends on the view we're holding. But that view is very potent. Where when it's more like we crack the reins on the carriage and we recognize I've been asleep with the reins in my hands and I've just
Mhm.
been taken for a spin. And then I wake up and I'm like, okay, let's crack this whip and make it what we want.
Wow.
Recognize how deep we're creating that, like, all the time,
Thank
and
you,
we
Ben.
always have been.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful message. And for anyone else who's listening now, like I want to talk more, but we're coming to our
I know.
conclusion. Where can they find more about your teachings, your coaching?
Yeah.
Where are you online?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, benjaminduffy.com, that's BenjamenDuffy.com, or Duffy, Duffy.com. Also, my Instagram, DuffDaddy100. I just rebranded my podcast to be more palatable. It was Spiritual Fuckboy, and now it's moved on to Live from the Source. So, Live from the Source podcast is the YouTube handle. Live from the Source on Instagram, posts a bunch of reels from it. And yeah, I'm about to launch my online community, so big things come with that. I'm really excited about it. And yeah, more to come. Right now, I just do one-on-ones, like coaching and therapy. But again, big things coming, so I'm really excited.
Amazing. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, last time we talked, you were just rebranding your podcast, so it's happening.
Yeah,
So I'm excited for you.
yeah.
Congratulations on the rebrand.
Thank you.
And for anyone who's watching, who's listening, if you know anyone who is moving through life and could benefit from the messages from this podcast, from this episode, please feel free to share it, repost it wherever you can, because that really supports the work that we do to share this message. And just based on our stories, you can kind of get the sense that like we went through a lot of challenging situations ourselves. And our hope is to be able to share that medicine with other people so that they can move through it more seamlessly than we did when we first went through it ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time, Ben. I really appreciate it. This was such meaningful message that I think everyone needs to hear. So I appreciate it a ton and
Yeah.
looking forward to talking to
Thank
you
you,
again
Jimmy.
soon, brother. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk anytime. Anytime you want to do a podcast, we have a great chemistry podcasting. So you let me know. Also, I'd love to have you on my show, Live from the Source, one of these days. So
I would love
yeah,
that. Yeah. Let me know. I would love that
sweet.
for sure.
Sweet.
Cool.
And yeah, no, this was a incredible conversation. I really appreciate you setting it up.
Yeah. Likewise. And thanks for sharing your story. And thanks everyone for listening. Hope you have a really, really beautiful day and talk to you again soon. Thanks, Ben.